not necessarily ideal, but it's the only way you can frame the real conversation. Because if you just ask for permission, like I've dealt with this in a lot of my business, people want to go to regulators and ask for permission. I'm like, you're just going to get a no because they don't have an incentive. I was reading an article in Inc. magazine the other day, and they had a number of entrepreneurs, extremely successful entrepreneurs, and they said, like, what's the biggest risk to small business and disruption and entrepreneurship? And they said regulation is the biggest risk because you have such vested interests lobbying for laws and policies that protect their interests. And so kind of going back to the root of my talk is that someone's got to fight that. Someone's going to have to push the boundaries, and you can either play within the system, which is already rigged by them to keep you down, or you can fight in different ways and look at different opportunities. Right now, in the medical marijuana startup, and this is just an example of good law versus bad law, our business is based on promoting medical marijuana. Essentially what it boils down to. And under the Narcotic Control Act in Canada, you can't actually promote it. Even though medical marijuana is legal, you can't promote marijuana. It's an inherent conflict in the law that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But we wanted to get some advice on this, and so we called a law firm. And I told the lawyer, being a lawyer that we spoke to, I'm like, I don't want no as an answer. I don't want you to tell me that I can't do this. I want you to tell me how I do this. And he came back and he said, you can't do this. And I'm like, that's specifically what I told you not to do. And the next day we had a meeting with Alan Young. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alan Young. He's amazing. He's a great lawyer. So we sat down with him. We pitched him on the same business model. And he's like, yeah, it's against the law, but we can get that law thrown out. Don't worry about it. He's like, do your business model. That's exactly what I said to us. I'm like, that's awesome. He's like, he's a guy who was able to look at the legal situation and actually consider the real ramifications of like, what happens if they come after you? Well, you have this backup. So he said, do your business model and just go for it. He's like, we'll deal with it when it comes, right? You can't anticipate every single risk. And even then, like, I'm more risk loving than my business partners who are actual entrepreneurs, not lawyers. And they always want to like, stop. And I'm like, let's push the boundaries. Let's advertise, because what's going to happen? No one's going to come and shut down our business. No one's going to throw us in jail. What's going to happen is we're going to get a letter. And that letter we can probably ignore, or we can abide by it. But what's the risk? We took a huge gamble, and the risk is so small, right? It really changes everything when you look at the fact that most of the time, the worst that's going to happen is you get a letter and you change, right? We can be responsive instead of anticipating every single issue that arises. And that's the way I like to look at it with my clients and in my businesses.